Squid Game definitely would have been completely different without seeing Song Gi-hun. So what would happen if Gi-hun died? Today, I'll be going over what could happen if Gi-hun ended up dying. But first, let's talk about how he would die. There are plenty of ways. Ali could have decided to not save him in red light, green light, or he could have cracked his cookie during Dalgona, or he could have died in the special game. The list goes on. Without plot armor, Gi-hun definitely would have been a goner. So for simplicity's sake, we'll just say he died during red light, green light. Without Gi-hun in the games, lots would change. For starters, he wouldn't be there to form a team with Il-nam, Sang-woo, and Ali like he originally did. It's possible that Ali and Sang-woo may have teamed up together at some point, but it's not likely that Il-nam would end up partnering up with any of them, especially Sang-woo. Now, how will Dalgona change? Let's find out. Gi-hun not being there would maybe cause a few more deaths due to the fact that he wouldn't be able to use his strategy. When Gi-hun started licking his cookie after discovering that it could be thinned, a lot of players started copying him, which could have ended up saving some lives. And if he wasn't there to start using that strategy, some players may have ended up panicking and running out of time, causing them to get eliminated. Other than that, Dalgona doesn't really change that much. Everyone still picks the shape they do originally as they don't have a reason not to, and without a few players, everybody who made it out alive originally would still survive. Though Dalgona doesn't change much, the special game that takes place in episode 4 definitely does. Gi-hun is the one who invites Se-byuk to the team at the start of the episode.
It looked like you and that thug really had it out for each other. Tonight, if anything happens, we'll all meet at my bed right there.
However, with him dead, he obviously wouldn't be able to do this. It's doubtful that she would want to ally with anyone, and it's not likely anyone would be able to get through to her. And it's not like she isn't capable of surviving the fight, but now that she can't ally herself with Gi-hun, she probably dies here all because of Duk-soo. She does manage to fight him off once, but later he comes back to kill her, this time with a group of his minions and a knife. Without Gi-hun, Sang-woo, and Ali to help her fight them off, Se-byuk would be a complete goner. So unfortunately, there's just not really a way for her to survive here. Se-byuk dying this early definitely ends up changing the course of the games later on, but for now, let's return to the special game. The fighting would still end the same with Il-nam indirectly telling the guards to end the special game, and the games would proceed as normal. Tug of War is up next, and the absence of both Gi-hun and Se-byuk will greatly affect how this game turns out. Sang-woo would probably be on a team with Ali, but without Gi-hun here to talk to him about it, he wouldn't want an old man like Il-nam or any women on his team due to believing men are better at the game than women. Without Se-byuk to recruit Ji-young, she'd probably end up on a random team of the people nobody wanted to team up with. We can see that nobody was approaching her in the original show, so this is the most likely outcome. Il-nam would probably end up being stuck on that team as well, due to being an old man with little to no strength. This would almost certainly cause both Il-nam and Ji-young's downfall, as this is a game relying mostly on strength, meaning here is where we say goodbye to the two of them, as there's almost no chance that they survive. There's a chance Il-nam would miraculously be able to lead his team to victory with his strategy, but even with that, he just wouldn't be able to stand a chance against a team like Duk-soo's, which would steamroll Il-nam's team easily. Sang-woo and Ali could easily survive this game as they're both fairly strong men, meaning there are only two semi-main characters left. The next game is Marbles, which requires the players to get into pairs. Assuming Sang-woo and Ali still have the bond they did in the original show, these two still pair up. Since the Doctor still gets executed, there's an uneven number of players, causing someone to be excused from the game. Assuming Minyo manages to survive Tug of War by some miracle, she'll be the one getting a free pass. Since Sang-woo and Ali still pair up, I see no reason for Sang-woo to not trick him like he did originally. Tragically, this means that Ali still loses his life here due to Sang-woo's deception, leaving Sang-woo as our only semi-main character left. Now, Glassbridge definitely would not be the same. Originally, Sang-woo picked number 14, so he'd do the same here. Since player 017, the man who worked with Glass, is still here, Sang-woo would probably be able to make it to the end. Sang-woo was ruthless enough to kill if he had to, which he did to player 017 in Glassbridge. With 017 carrying him and people who would be in the back almost all the way to the end, there's no doubt Sang-woo would end up pushing him if he had to. Everything else would still pretty much go the same. Minyo still kills Duk-soo, that is if she's still alive, the VIPs still arrive, and so on and so forth. Now, who would our three finalists be? Sang-woo would definitely be one of them, but the other two would probably be random background characters or something like that. None of our main characters without Sang-woo are still alive, so none of them would be in the final three with him. Sang-woo really doesn't have a reason to kill anybody right now like he did originally, so Squid Game would consist of 3 players instead of 2, which doesn't really make sense. There could be another game suited for a 3-person finale, but that doesn't really matter. What really matters is who wins, which we'll dive into right now. I think it's pretty obvious that Sang-woo wins here. He's physically capable, he's extremely smart, and he's a main character. Unless he's going up against a Duk-soo clone with more smarts, Sang-woo is winning the whole thing. So that's the end of Season 1. Sang-woo ends up taking the cash prize, leaving him as the sole survivor of the 33rd Squid Games. But how would his win affect Season 2? Turns out a lot would change just from Gi-hun being absent. Right off the bat, episodes 1 and 2 just wouldn't happen. Sang-woo isn't as selfless as Gi-hun, and he wouldn't dedicate all of the time Gi-hun did to finding the recruiter and stopping the games. Sang-woo would just probably try to lay low and live his life as normally as he could. Of course, this wouldn't stop the games from continuing on, although there's a major change. In-ho, player 001, doesn't join the games this time. The only reason he did was because of Gi-hun, and now that he's dead and Sang-woo isn't following in his footsteps, he has no reason to put himself into the games. So, episode 3, what would change? Well, during red light, green light, since nobody there has played these games before, a lot more people would have died. Gi-hun was able to save most of the people due to him warning the group.
If you move after red light, you're gonna be shot!
So without him, more would have panicked and ran when shots started being fired. Now, on to the vote. Player 456 and 001, so there's no telling whether or not they'd vote O or X. Originally, Gi-hun voted X and In-ho voted O, but they're not here. For plot purposes, we'll say that both vote O, meaning that the games will continue. Now, you might be thinking what Gi-hun's group would be up to. I'm talking about Jung-bae, Jun-hee, and Dae-ho. Jung-bae wouldn't have Gi-hun to rely on, so he'd either be isolated from everybody else or would make friends with a few new players. Dae-ho would probably go down a similar route, and Jun-hee would still be helped out by Gumja after the older woman realizes Jun-hee is pregnant, and In-ho would still be watching the games as the frontman, as he's not in the games this time around. As for the six-legged pentathlon, it's hard to tell who would join what team. Dae-ho and Jung-bae would probably end up on random teams. Jun-hee might have ended up joining a team with Myung-gi and Hyun-ju. Gumja and the rest of their team would still end up going together. It's impossible to know how everyone would do, although if Jun-hee did end up joining Myung-gi's team, we know she'd pass as his team made it through originally. Assuming everyone in our main cast passes, we can move on to the next game, Mingle. The numbers for Mingle would be kind of skewed due to the absence of more players than there were originally, but for the sake of the plot, we'll just say everything works out like it does in the show. Although Hyunju's team still sticks together, since Jung-bae, Dae-ho, and Jun-hee aren't working together along with Gi-hun and In-ho, the two groups don't end up joining together. It's hard to say whether everybody in the main cast survives here. I mean, Jung-bae seems like a sociable guy, so he might have ended up forming a group of his own that he manages to survive with. Mingle might have been more difficult for Jun-hee due to her being pregnant, but she seemed to be just fine in the original show, so she would probably be able to find a group decently quickly. Hyunju, Gumja, Youngshik, and Youngmi definitely have the best chance at survival due to all being in a group, but it's still possible Youngmi unfortunately ends up dying the same way she does in the show. The other three surviving isn't impossible, but a game like Mingle isn't much harder if you don't have a group to rely on. But in the end, whether or not they survive isn't very important because one of the main events of the season, the rebellion, never happens in this universe. Since Gi-hun isn't there to propose the idea, the players never end up trying to rebel.
We'll need our own guns to fight back.
The special game still happens, but nobody tries stealing the guards' guns. This means the games continue as normal with no deaths. Assuming he made it this far, that means Jung-bae is still alive, as the frontman has no reason to kill him here. That's where Season 2 would leave off. No rebellion, Jung-bae is still alive, and the games continue on. It really shows how plain the second season would be without Gi-hun and In-ho there to spice things up. If you enjoyed this video, click the video on the screen.